Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Today we're continuing to talk about some of the big quarterback battles as we head into the 2022 college football season, finishing up fall camp, and we're talking about the LSU Tigers. This is one of the more impactful quarterback battles we see in the country. This team, if you guys have been listening to us, I am extremely high on LSU. This team is just chock full of talent. If they could figure out the quarterback spot, get good quarterback play, this is a team that I think is going to make a lot of noise in the SEC and national landscape this year. Before we get into it, guys, just wanted to say thank you for all the support you guys have shown the channel. You like talking college football, consider subscribing to the channel. Let us know in the comment section, especially you LSU fans, who you guys want to see at quarterback one. Myles Brennan just officially hangs it up. Dill, I'm going to kick it to you. It's a two-man race, it seems. Jayden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier. Who do you think should be quarterback one, and then who do you think will be quarterback number one?
Yeah, so this is kind of a hard one, and I guess it comes down to Brian Kelly's mindset on this whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the idea is to go with Walker Howard as like the guy moving forward, and maybe you're not going to start him as a true freshman, but you want him, you think he's the future.
Yeah.
I almost lean to just go Jayden Daniels, let him play the year. No harm, no foul. Like, he maybe tries to go pro after this, whatever he wants to do. But if you start Garrett Nussmeier, then it feels like you're in a bit of a bind, like how Michigan is now. Like, do you keep Garrett Nussmeier and let him maybe stay 4 years or something, and then you lose a lot of years of Walker Howard? I guess that's kind of where my mind goes to with this battle is that dynamic, because this team probably isn't going to win a national title this year. I think they can be very good, but I don't see them winning at all. And what does Brian Kelly want to do moving forward?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But like, does Brian Kelly want to start this dynasty at LSU, or does he want to come out this year and really win some games? You probably want to do both. Jayden Daniels is an interesting one. I didn't think he looked that good in the spring game. He's taking a lot of QB1 reps at camp from what I've been reading and listening to. And he's a guy that, like, don't sleep on him. He was a very, very high recruit coming out of high school, played well at times and flashed at Arizona State. And to be honest, I think he kind of fell into the same thing we talk about with Bo Nix, is he just had to play hero ball. The wide receivers stunk at Arizona State. He didn't have a particularly good offensive line. He was running for his life a lot and trying to do a lot on his own. I think you get him in this LSU offense with more talent around him. This wide receiver room is one of the best in the country, headlined by obviously Kayshon Boutte, but it's a very talented team around him, and you give Jayden Daniels the talent around him, I think he can do some special things. I would like to see him as quarterback one, but I do think Nuss is probably the more consistent option.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, could Jayden Daniels win them 8 or 9 games? Probably, yes. And maybe that's what Brian Kelly kind of wants. Okay, I know what's going on going forward, and that's going to be Walker Howard's going to be my guy. I'm going to continue to recruit and put talent around him and do what LSU does. But that's going to be the guy. Then that makes sense, because you don't want a year where you're like 5-7. That's for sure what you don't want at LSU. Yeah. I think it sets the whole thing off on the wrong foot, and I don't think anyone's hoping for that. So I think he's going to want a veteran who he can kind of trust to just get the job done. And I think you're right in saying, like, it could be interesting to see Jayden Daniels on a team that has something around him, because his true freshman year at Arizona State, he was really good. And I guess the problem was he never really made much progress ever since then. But if he can fit in a scheme that makes more sense, or just allows him to play more of a normal style of football and use
play within the offense. Like, he just had to do so much at Arizona State. And the thing with this, which makes it interesting, is Brian Kelly's always kind of gravitated to more the consistent quarterback. Like, you look what he did with Jack Hunt. Tyler Buckner probably provided more upside to that Notre Dame team last year. He goes with the veteran. He stuck with Ian Book for multiple years because Ian Book was a guy that he trusted to get the job done. Now, Jayden Daniels is probably as far as can be from a consistent quarterback. We've seen that guy make some absolute absurd plays, boneheaded plays, missed throws. You saw it in the spring game, but he's also a guy that can just light the field on fire. And so I think Another interesting point is Garrett Nussmeier. You start him, and you start him next year maybe, and then you're only getting like 1 or 2 years from Walker Howard. I think Walker Howard's the future, but if you start Jayden Daniels, you're
can you keep Walker Howard if Garrett Nussmeier starts? Because then he's like, oh, so I'm not as good as this guy. Am I going to sit the bench for 3 years? Like Walker Howard's a guy who's not sitting the bench for 3 years. If he thinks he's not going to play as probably a true sophomore, I think he's going to get a little antsy, and you might lose him and especially if LSU has a 5 and 7 year, and it's like, oh, this team isn't even headed in the right direction, and I'm not going to play. I think you run that risk for sure. And I don't know how plugged in he is to that LSU program. It's probably different for every guy. But I think that's kind of where my head goes, because you're planning for the future, I'd say, for this year, and hoping just to have a good season, get the ship righted, and then really kind of take off in the next few years.
But also, and we're talking a lot more about the future of this LSU team, which I think is the more exciting way to look. This team can be really good in the future, I think, under Brian Kelly. Now, if you start Jayden Daniels, you probably lose Nuss to the transfer portal after this year.
But that probably has to be the case anyway if you want Walker Howard to be around.
That's true.
He's not going to want to sit behind a guy who's only a year older. I just don't see that as a likely scenario.
So we're agreeing that you probably in 2 years down the road, or probably a year down the road, Walker Howard and Garrett Nussmeier both aren't on LSU. It's only one.
I would guess that, because I think they're both pro caliber guys. That's I think they both have a shot to be NFL players, and hence they're gonna both want to play. I think
Garrett Nussmeier, he looked and I get it's just a spring game. They're not tackling quarterbacks, whatever. Especially a guy like Jayden Daniels, who when you blow the play dead early, it kind of takes away his biggest toolkit, which is his athleticism and his ability to extend plays. Nussmeier looked way better than Jayden Daniels, I thought. And I actually really like Garrett Nussmeier. I'm kind of torn, and I think I'm just going to go and trust Brian Kelly to kind of start whatever quarterback he thinks. I think you said it best. You want to win games this year. You gotta play the quarterback. You don't play for the future. This year, it's too talented of a team to just chalk up as a rebuild year. And so you got to play the quarterback that is going to get you 8-9 wins. That's the standard at LSU. That's how good this team can be. And so,
and that's probably true. If you think Nussmeier's the better quarterback straight up, you probably play him and then let it shake out next year. If one of them needs to transfer, one of them transfers. It's it is what it is. But if Nussmeier is going to give you the chance to win, I think, and I guess that gets hard. I don't even know how to navigate this as a fan. God, to help the coaches who have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I guess you probably do. You owe it to the team now to try to win. I don't think you play fair to a Keyshawn Butte. And I don't know that it sends the right message to recruits if you're playing chess with they don't have that long at college. So honestly, Brian Kelly will probably play the best guy. And if that's Nussmeier, which, Garrett Nussmeier didn't play a ton last year. I think everyone knows he has talent. I don't think Jayden Daniels has convinced me he's a bona fide starter at the Power 5, or not at the big time LSU type program level. So maybe it is Nussmeier, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too fanned out here with this transfer portal games. It probably will just come down to who's the better player. Yeah. And however that shakes out, it shakes out.
And I think the best player is Garrett Nussmeier, personally. Jayden Daniels, I don't think plays. It's very hard to be a 10-win team and 9-win team when you have a quarterback that misses those 3rd and 5 throws. Yeah. And that's what Jayden Daniels has done throughout his career. As a fan, I'd be lying if I didn't want to see Jayden Daniels surrounded by all this talent, because he is a guy that can be a Heisman. A couple of years ago, he was a top 5 Heisman contender. That's how talented this dude is, but he's also just extremely inconsistent. I think Garrett Nussmeier is more of a guy that you can trust to get the ball into the hands of guys like Keyshawn Butte, get it into the hands of John Emery Jr. And so I probably lean Garrett Nussmeier as in the head, in the heart. I'd be lying if I didn't want to see a little Jayden Daniels in the SEC.
What about in the heart, a little Walker Howard just come out of nowhere, take the job, get the Walker Howard train going right away?
And that you threw it. I don't think we'll see that. I think it's between.
You hear nothing about that, so it's
you're only hearing Garrett Nussmeier and Jayden Daniels. I'm interested again. We're gonna leave it at that. We're not as plugged in as you LSU fans. So again, this is a team that I want to make some money on this year. And if they have good quarterback play, I think this team is going to they're not even in the top 25. This roster is a top 10 team level talent.
His defense is like top 5, arguably.
And the offensive weapons too. If the offensive line holds up, like this team is extremely good. And if they get good quarterback play, it's going to be a team that, again, makes a lot of noise. They just need a quarterback that can get the job done. So, again, LSU fans, please let me know in the comment section who I should be rooting for so I can hammer the LSU Tigers this year. Appreciate you guys checking us out as usual. Again, if you like the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we're going to talk to all you later.